yet another Cookie Pocket. I am joined by the same guys as always. But hey, we have a guest today. Introducing dear friend and loyal listener of the podcast, Amelia. Welcome, Amelia.
Thanks, Christian.
Would you like to introduce yourself to the masses?
I'm Amelia.
Hi.
I also like movies. But I also like books. So
nice.
That's a fun fact. And my letterboxd is Amelia Yasuda.
There you go.
Yep.
Okay, that will be in the description.
Follow me.
Yeah.
Perfect. Fantastic. Good to have you.
Thanks.
Today we are discussing 1997, I'll call it a classic, Good Will Hunting, directed by Gus Van Sant, starring Matt Damon, Robin Williams, Ben Affleck, Stellan Skarsgård, and Minnie Driver. And Matt Damon and Affleck won an Oscar for co-writing this. And I think Robin Williams won as well for his performance, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Better.
And I guess I'll do the Mitchell style summary, which is so helpful that I always forget to do when I'm hosting. So Matt is playing Will Hunting, and Ben Affleck is playing a friend. His name doesn't really matter. And they're both sort of like blue-collar working class dudes living in Boston, sort of near the Harvard campus. Except the thing about Will is that he's a genius. And when he's working as a janitor in this mathematics building at Harvard, he solves this like...
MIT.
MIT. Oh my gosh, you're so right.
Goodness.
Oh my goodness, I'm so ill-prepared.
Don't we look like a bunch of fools?
I got my face 2 minutes in. This is going great. He solves a really hard thingy, and from there he's like really important to all these people, and he gets sent to Robin Williams therapy, and it's very conversational and emotional film. So,
Okay.
now that that's out of the way.
You made it sound just gripping, Christian.
It really is, though. It really is.
Yeah.
Ratings out of 5 and general thoughts. Who would like to go first?
Well, I wanted to jump in and say that it really bugs me that the title to this movie doesn't really mean anything. The title doesn't really make any sense at all, the way that it's spelled. I think everybody, the way that you hear it, you go, oh, so they're like searching for goodwill. They're searching for some kind of kindness or generosity. But no, it's just like, I don't know, like Will Hunting is a dog and he just did a trick or something. It's a strange title.
Will, good.
But outside of the title, I do think that this is a really good film, and I think it holds up really well. I mentioned in my review, and I think you also mentioned, Amelia, in yours, that the beginning is a little iffy. And I think part of that is I said that it kind of felt like a Lifetime movie that's trying to be really artful at the beginning. But I don't think that's the movie's fault. I think that's kind of because Lifetime has like appropriated like the kind of rough look and feel of this sort of like troubled youth movie and made it just their whole brand over the past 2 decades. But after the first act with its like slow-mo fist fight in a tennis court scene, and oh no, it's a basketball court.
Yes.
And it's like autumnal color palette. I think that's when it really starts to pick up. Kind of when they're I think How Do You Like Them Apples On is kind of where the movie starts to really pick up, and we see more from Robin Williams, who is not in this as much as you might think. He's kind of the thing that everybody remembers about this movie is, oh, Robin Williams and Matt Damon. And they do have some really great scenes, but there's only like 4 or 5 of them. And outside of that, he's not really in the movie that much, but he really does make his mark, which I think is a mark of him deserving the Oscar. So 4 out of 5 for me. I think it's a really great script, which you mentioned, Christian, and it is surprising that this is like just something that Matt Damon and Ben Affleck kind of like wrote on the side as a passion project for years, and then finally were able to make this. It's not one of my favorite films that we've done on the podcast by any means, and it's not my favorite Gus Van Sant movie. I prefer when he gets a little weirder. But I do think it really holds up and is definitely worth watching. This is a good film to watch with your parents.
It is. Yeah.
What are all these F words? My Christian child, what is going on here? I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. I did see this before, I think like 3 years ago for the first time, and Robin Williams is just really funny. And I know I get compared to him a lot, but mostly because I look like him. Probably not because I'm funny, but Matt Damon is very engaging, and I mean, just the conversations they have are so believable, and I think that's what just makes them engaging. And I think like the pacing of them, like mixed in with like the normal, like, you know, like going about like the 4 boys just messing around and everything, and then contrasting with him talking with the professor and the therapist. And I just think you really get a sense like he's trying to break down his own barriers that are preventing him from maturing and coming of age beyond the terrible childhood trauma he had. And it's just interesting to see how every conversation he has with the therapist is indicative of how his life is transforming before him, and he has to change in order to adapt to those demands. And it starts to become beyond him just being really smart and being like a prodigy. It ends up becoming just like a normal person, like a normal relatable person that's just trying to grapple with life kicking him in the ass, basically, and like having to deal with, you know, growing up and having responsibility and having to put yourself out there in order to succeed and everything. And all those are so like seamlessly like put in as themes, and it totally works. Like you get engaged with the prodigy thing, but you kind of it becomes a much more naturalistic story. I think like the most relatable thing I can think of is like the Green Mile, I guess, because the Green Mile is really focuses on those like those fantasy elements early on, and you're kind of confused as to why all those are infused in there. But then like the morality really comes out when, you know, the death sentence is about to come and everything, and you kind of get the relatability factor like goes up exponentially. Especially have me actually like semi-recognizing some of the proofs in here, the eigenvalues and eigenfactors and combinatorial.
Look out! We got our own mathematician in the cookie pocket arena.
Zoom Calc 2, I got an A. Linear algebra, I got a C-. So this is when Amelia can give her opinion now. 4.5 out of 5.
I also gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was really good, and it was really just the beginning that bothered me. I get the Lifetime movie thing, and I agree, mostly for the slow motion fight on the basketball court with like the weirdest song on top of it. Like not the song is weird, but like the song choice just was bizarre to me. But yeah, I thought it was like choppy, like just the back and forth between like Will and then the professor was just like, so I was like, what is happening? It was like they like wrote a longer beginning and then were like, oh, this is way too long, and just absolutely massacred it. But then I think it was really like once Robin Williams was introduced, it came together for me, because that's when you start getting into like the characters and relationships, like Mitchell was saying, and that's, I think, definitely like the most enthralling part of the movie. Yeah, I was definitely very impressed by the script as well, just like the conversations that were happening. I was very invested in everything that was going on, in terms of like definitely like more so relationships than like what was actually like happening plot wise, I would say. So yeah, I thought it was really good. And Matt Damon and Ben Affleck were so hot. I don't know if I've just never like looked up old pictures of them, but I was always like, okay, whatever. And I was like, I would be like staring at him, and he'd be like in tears or whatever, and I was like, damn, I would make out with this man.
This is a valuable perspective. We've never had this point of view on Cookie Pocket before.
This is true. Well, going off of that, I gave this a 5 out of 5, and though I largely agree with your criticisms, especially like the one time I actually think this could be better is the fist fight, the slow-mo and all that is strange. But a couple episodes ago, I sort of remember Zach saying, I don't even remember what you were citing, Zach, but you were saying something was an example of it sort of made you depressed as a creative because you felt like it wasn't something that you could do to that level or replicate.
Oh yeah.
I totally get that feeling with this. I usually get that with music more than with film because that's sort of more my forte. But just from a writing perspective, I am just like, it's so hard to find that balance between realistic and natural and also entertaining and not so real that it's like uncomfortable and just not worth watching. And I cannot believe that Damon and Affleck achieved that on their first go. It's just, it can't be said enough, really. How old were they when this was? I have to check now.
I think they were right out of college.
Oh my
When
gosh.
they started making it.
It came out when they were 27.
Okay.
That's so upsetting.
That's older than I thought.
So they probably like started writing this around our age, basically, or maybe even
Yeah.
earlier. Who knows? Wow. I think, like, from a technical standpoint, I almost view this as more of like a play on film than like something that requires complex camera work or like heavy work and sound editing and whatever.
Elfman.
Yeah, no, we are going to get to that.
Oh.
It's visually kind of one note, but I don't really care at all because I don't think the visuals are what this is. It's all about the relationships, like Amelia said. So, and you know, I've been critical of Ben Affleck quite often on this podcast, I must admit, especially in this season when we discussed Pearl Harbor. But I think he's really, really great in this. A really good, even though he's similar to Will and his best friend, I think in a way he's kind of a foil to him. And that totally comes to fruition when he's giving that speech to Will about how he's kind of wasting the opportunity he has by staying there with him just because he's afraid. And to me, that hits as hard as a bunch of the stuff Robin Williams delivers. So 5 out of 5 for me. I would recommend this. This really feels like a movie that basically anyone can watch and get something out of. So highly, highly recommend it. Speaking of Danny Elfman, this features a Danny Elfman score and a lot of Elliott Smith in the soundtrack. So how did the music contribute to this effort for you guys?
The Elliott Smith stuff works a lot better than Danny Elfman does. I don't think Danny Elfman, I don't think he was the right choice for this, honestly, for the score. The hottest take of all time.
Wow.
But I don't know. I just found it kind of distracting. It made me think that it made me focus more on the cliches than anything else. It made me feel like I was expecting the good ending, I guess, out of every scene. And it made me feel a lot more like overly optimistic. And I guess the one thing that it kind of contributes is that it kind of makes you feel comforted by the fact that they're talking about traumatic experiences, I guess. But in terms of like, I think the dead air moments when they're talking, especially obviously Robin Williams and Matt Damon, I think those are like the key moments. Like I think that the dead silence works perfectly for that. Like you're hanging on to every word. But yeah, I do find the Danny Elfman score to be a little bit obtrusive, but yeah, Elliott Smith, I think it was fine. You know, I think it was used like a perfect amount. I didn't think it was too, annoying because that's not my type of music. But but yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm a big Danny Elfman fan. I'm a big fan of Danny's work all the way back with the Mystic Knights of the Oingo Boingo. But I do have to say, I think in like the 80s and 90s, he kind of becomes a really overused composer. He started working with Tim Burton, and then he did the score for Batman, and that was an enormous hit. And I think everybody kind of just went, Danny Elfman, he has to do the score for everything now. and so you get movies like this where I don't really think his sort of oddball, quirky sensibilities really fit the premise necessarily.
Yeah.
And so he kind of just feels stuck in a box and like he can't really do his Danny Elfman thing, so he's just kind of doing as little as he can. And that as a result means that I don't really think the music in this is or at least the score, is especially memorable at all. It all feels a lot like the kind of thing that I would find on like Artlist or DeWolf Music as like, I need something for my educational video where people are writing on chalkboards. I need something kind of bouncy and light and inspiring. And those would be the tabs that I would enter. And then I would press search and I would find one of these tracks. So yeah, I think the score is pretty underwhelming. I mean, I wasn't especially blown away by any of the music, if I'm totally honest. Now, that's not to say I didn't care about the music, but I think the real highlight of this film is the performances and the script, and a lot of the other aspects, including the direction, which was unusual because I do like Gus Van Sant, as I mentioned, kind of sort of washed to the background, and the main focus for me became the actors and the material more.
Yeah, I would agree for the most part. Overall, it was I like noticed the Danny Elfman score, and I was like, I know Danny Elfman. And this is music. In terms of the Elliott Smith, like, I also think it fit. The one, I don't know if this is the first song of his that shows up, but Between the Bars is very important in one of my favorite movies, Stuck in Love, and it is featured in a very different scene. So it was like really jarring to have it be in such kind of a like more like funny, lighthearted moment compared to like this really like heavy emotional thing that like I associate it with. So that specific moment I was like thrown off through that whole thing, but that's just a me problem. Otherwise, I think it was fine.
Nice. You know, it's funny. I kind of liked the score on this go around.
All right, get out.
The first time I watched this, I've alluded to this period of time in my life in other episodes where I was watching a ton of movies. Breakfast at Tiffany's was in this time period. The Blade Runner sequel and the Before trilogy, and this like period of isolation at Kenyon where all I did with my free time was watch movies. And this was one of those movies. And I did not notice the score like at all. It wasn't a negative or a positive for me. It was just, like Amelia said, it was kind of just there. This time, I kind of liked it. It felt, I could tell that it was Danny Elfman for sure, and it has a sort of whimsy to it. And I don't know if this is just because I was granting it a lot of leniency, or I was reading a John Williams article like an hour or so before watching this, where he's talking about how he's not super spiritual, or he is spiritual, but he says he's not super religious. And he sort of described how music can sort of evoke these feelings of like magic or whatever in a broad sense. And maybe I was just like, yeah, tell him, Johnny. And I was just ready to hear anything and apply that logic to it. But I think it makes some subtle moments, like when Will isn't home, feel kind of magical in their own mundane way. As far as Elliott Smith goes, I adore Elliott Smith. He's one of my favorite artists. We've talked about Zach's discography tours on Week in Review sometimes here, and he really blazes through them, and I don't mean that as a disrespect. Like, I kind of admire how quickly you can do that. It takes me a very long time to get through an artist. I've sort of went through the Beatles, and then I sort of went through, I'm still going through Prince, and I really feel like Elliott Smith is right there. I'm sort of like halfway-ish through Elliott Smith, starting it before finishing Prince, but I don't really do that with an artist unless I really connect with them, so I certainly have with him. And the song that plays
doesn't surprise me, Christian.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the indie acoustic, whatever. The song that plays while Will is driving to what's her name, Skyler. Miss Misery is a fantastic composition, like musically, theoretically speaking. It's the chord changes are just so good, and there's like 2 different bridges, and it's just really, really good.
2? Oh my God.
Dose?
No
there's
way.
usually only 1 bridge if there is a bridge at all, but there's 2. This is a big deal. It doesn't sound like a big deal, but it is. I promise. Just take my C- in intermediate music theory.
Nice. What did you get a C- in, Zach?
A government test. Once.
Yeah, exactly.
That's one.
Yeah, okay. I don't know what's next. What do you want to talk about next? I don't know.
You are hosting, Christian.
Yeah. I just thought this would be
I
a
write
lot
down
more
my questions. I use
free-flow.
IMDb trivia. I'm all out here. Wikipedia. I don't even know.
He didn't even properly prep me for this. He texted me a minute before and was
Okay,
like, "How are you
whoa.
recording
Exposed.
yourself?" I was like,
Exposed.
We don't need everyone to know that.
This has become the roast of Christian Maric.
Okay, I have a question.
Deservedly so.
We've
I'm
talked quite a lot about Matt Damon and Robin Williams.
Mhm.
What did we make of Stellan Skarsgård and Minnie Driver's supporting roles?
He was better in this than Thor.
Oh, for
That's
sure.
very true. He was also better in this than he was in Thor: The Dark World.
"Well,
I didn't even know he was in that.
Yep. He takes his pants off and runs around. I bet you didn't remember that, but he does.
I'm gonna watch it again now. Yeah, British girlfriend in it is pretty epic. I don't know. I think she gave a pretty compelling performance when they were arguing and she was saying, "But I love you." It did not feel pasted or not real. It definitely was convincing. I mean, I will say a lot of cliches that have to do with romantic conflicts in movies are also derived from real life, and a lot of those same experiences can happen to people in real life too. And I think that totally comes across to me. I think it, like Christian was saying, with the realism, naturalism, and entertainment, I think that's a perfect example of that balance. And Matt Damon obviously gives her a great performance in that too. Totally believable. And yeah, I mean, I think the professor was good. I think he's, a steadfast professor. He knows what he wants out of his students, and he's trying to basically abduct this kid, and he's the student now, and I want him to be big brain and everything. And then Robin Williams is like, no, he's more than that, and
Yeah.
I enjoyed seeing Stellan Skarsgård in maybe a more subtle role than he gets a lot nowadays. I feel like a lot of the time nowadays he gets...
Dune.
I don't think he's typecast by any means, but he gets cast as the Baron in Dune, or he gets cast as these mad scientists, or these off the wall characters like we see in the Avengers films that he is in. I believe there's 3 of them. But there have been so far. There could be more. I don't remember.
There's 4 Avengers films so far, Zach. Come on.
No, that he's in. That he's in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Acceptable.
So I liked seeing him as kind of a more subtle, not embittered character necessarily. I do think he's tired, and he's sort of accepted maybe his, within the community that he works in, sort of his mediocrity in life, but I don't think he plays this sort of intense, frightening lunatic that he does in other movies. So it's interesting to see him play that, particularly in the scenes where he and Robin Williams interact. And there's this implication of the friendship or the relationship they used to have, and how that's changed over time. And that's never really, a lot of that is never really stated overtly. We just kind of pick up on it in the way that they interact around each other, and sort of the mutual cold shoulder that they give each other, but they're not trying to make it look like a cold shoulder, but the lack of temperature is there. I also, I thought Minnie Driver was good as well. I think she plays, and I think part of this is the credit of the script, but she plays this character who's sort of... I think part of the reason she's fascinated with Will is because he's so different from all the other people that she usually meets within this sort of academic circle that she runs in. But that doesn't mean that he necessarily has some kind of fascinated power over her or anything like that. She holds her own within his friend group, and with him. I think of the scene where they're sharing dirty stories in the bar, as okay, she's not just kind of the hoity-toity MIT college girl. She can hold her own in these conversations, and she can flow into this sort of community of guys it's not like she's the upper crust Jane in Tarzan or anything like that, and she's sort of fascinated with this wild man or something like that.
I'm pretty sure that's also Minnie Driver, by the way.
That is also Minnie Driver, yeah.
Wow.
It's there's more layers to it than that, and it's more subtle than that, and more realistic than that as well, I would say, to the point that when she goes, okay, well, I'm going anyway, you believe that would happen, and that's how it would work for these characters, and I think that adds to you being glad that he's going after her by the end.
Just say you don't love me. I don't love you.
Yeah, I agree. I really liked Minnie Driver in this. I haven't seen her in a lot of things. I've really only seen her in Ella Enchanted, I think. So again, that's kind of
nice.
A big vibe shift from like this silly little children's movie, which is so good, but still like not this. But yeah, I thought she was really good. I really liked her character, and I agree with what Zach said about how like part of it is like Will is so different from everybody she knows, but it's like it's more than that. Like it's not just a surface level like fascination thing, which is what he is so like scared that it is, but it's like so clearly not. And they definitely go like out of their way to prove that to the audience, I would say. And then Stellan Skarsgård was also good. I don't like his character. I don't think his character is like a very likable person. But I thought that he was very believable in that role. In like not an insulting way.
He wouldn't round up your grade at the end of the semester.
No, yeah.
It's just the two like literally 3-second scenes where he's like talking to like his female students and is like, "Oh, do you want to get a drink with me?" or like whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like,
that is weird.
Oh my god. Yeah.
There's the one outside the first therapist office where you just kind of hear him say, I don't know what he says, something like, and math is like poetry in a lot of ways or something. It's like, give me a break, buddy. Like
he says it's like literally in this way. He's like, it's so erotic.
He does.
Excuse me? Are you kidding me right now?
That has to be like the least subject to apply to that. Anyway, I also really like both of them. I love how I just choose movies where we have to admit that they're good. Stellan, I think I agree that he's definitely the least likable of the bunch, but I think there's one moment I still find him like really. He's not very empathetic actively, but I do find him relatable in what he does. Like when Will is burning the whatever his most recent brilliant solution to whatever is, and he like hurriedly runs over and pats it down and talks about how agonizing it is for him to witness how brilliant Will is every day and to watch him throw it away. I think that's really, really great. And something that complicates him, like it would be kind of easy to make him the bad guy and make Robin Williams the good guy and just sort of lay that out in black and white. But I think they're really deft in not doing that and making it a little bit more complicated. And yeah, I think Zach's points about Minnie Driver's performance with the other guys is really important. Yeah. And she and Will sort of transcend like this class discussion. And ultimately it's not really about like when Will gives this big speech about how expensive the education is. It's not really about that the guy paid for the education. It's why he's doing it versus why she's doing it, and what she puts in is different than what some guy that likes to brag about himself at a bar puts into it. And they see something in each other that they hadn't seen in anyone else, and I think that's totally not melodramatic, like Mitchell said. When
so
they're
special.
Like, fighting. It is. Yeah. It is. Gosh darn it! It is special. Yes, it is.
I agree, Christian. It is special.
Thank you, Amelia. Yeah, you guys stop it.
Zach said nothing.
Really?
Yeah, I usually get blamed for these things, though, anyway.
Oh, yeah, it's still your fault. I agree. Well, I don't really know if there's that much more to say about this, because it is very conversational and performance-led. I don't really think there's a lot of technical stuff to dig into here. But if you guys have any final thoughts, please share them.
I think it's notable that this film shows off how Robin Williams, if he improvises, isn't just going to go full-on genie. Because I think for years, kind of before he started doing more dramatic roles, even in like semi-dramatic roles, like something like Patch Adams, when Robin Williams is given the room to improvise, it means he's going to become this this bouncing ball of energy and be impossible to contain, and it's going to get way too big, and you're going to have to do so much work in editing to cut around it. But I'm pretty sure, and you guys can correct me on this if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure the "she farts in her sleep" line, or "she farted in her sleep," was improvised.
I think that was, yeah.
So I think that's a great indication that Robin Williams can improvise something and still kind of keep it small and within character, and not necessarily go over the top with all the hands and all kinds of visual comedy as well, or even comedy at all. Like he can improvise and still make it dramatic and work within the scene, which I think is a real mark of his talent. Is not just a comedian but a performer in general.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Pretty good movie, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, it's just the script. It's the dialogue. That's like the entire movie. That's what it's all about. Ben Affleck's accent also, and yeah, being wickedly smart. Yeah, 4.5 out of 5. Yep, you should watch this.
Yeah,
you should.
Yeah. Oh my god, I feel like we didn't talk about Ben Affleck at all, but he is also like really good in this, and even like the whole dynamic between the friends is just like it's so male, but it's
yes.
very good.
Where it's basically just bullying, but
It's literally just bullying. It's like, oh, you want to take it outside? Okay. But then also like just so like,
I read
horribly horribly loyal to each other to the point of like, oh, we're just gonna go beat up this guy on the street because he like hit him in high school or kindergarten, not high school, which is just okay. Anyway, yeah. So Ben Affleck, I thought was really good, and just to circle back to Stellan Skarsgård, his character, it's just, I do agree, Christian, with the whole like, I wouldn't have liked it if they made him like this obvious antagonist character, like in Will's life, but I also think that they didn't really know what you were supposed to think about him, or at least by the end, I was like, I don't know, because he like went to Robin Williams and was like, roommate, I don't remember his name, Sean, and then he was like, yeah, I know, and they like, I don't know, kind of like made up or whatever, which is fine, but it's still like, I don't know, just there are so many like hints to the fact that he's like not a good person that it's hard to like do this turnaround of like, oh yeah, they're like buddies again, and Will has no hard feelings towards him whatsoever. But yeah, like the scene that you talked about where he like puts out the fire on the paper, that one like made me so viscerally uncomfortable, because it's this idea of like kind of like this mentor figure in your life that you think has all the answers, and then they're just like reduced to this like kind of sniveling like pathetic little being. Yeah. And I was like, oh, this is actually horrifying. Like not actually, but yeah, that one. And then my favorite scene is the argument scene between Will and Skyler. Like that one just really hit. I was like sitting there were like tears in my eyes. I did cry. Yeah. Not as much as I thought I would. It was kind of happier. That's true. Wait. No, Matt Damon was shirtless. But like not for long enough. Because I didn't remember it.
Yeah.
He had to.
That's
I guess was he shirtless? I don't know. Maybe it was because the framing of it, you couldn't really see.
Okay. You got his shoulders.
You didn't see. No, yeah. You didn't
collarbone doesn't do it for you.
No. Well, I mean, if it's filmed in an erotic way,
like multiplication.
Yeah, exactly. Like that, you know. No, yeah, that would okay. New biggest criticism of this film.
Okay.
Not enough shirtless Matt Damon. Like in that scene with Between the Bars, it should have been Matt Damon laying down, and you could see his entire chest, and then Minnie Driver would sometimes pop up randomly.
All right. Okay, I'll let Gus know. I'll send him a letter.
I think you should. I think it's really, really important that we get as many shirtless men in movies as possible.
There needs to be a quota.
Yeah.
Zach has Gus in one of his Rolodexes somewhere, I'm sure.
Yes. Mr. Van Sant, I have some words for you.
Yeah. Is that enough of a female
Yes.
perspective for you?
Yeah.
Yes, that's quite enough. We can stop now. That was a joke. I kid. Thumbs up.
All right,
Gosh, I
Christian.
don't even remember what I was gonna say for my own final thoughts now. Oh my gosh, probably the most iconic scene is the "How about them apples," but it really bothers me that they used a 555 number on that. Like, I know why they did. I know every single movie does it, but like, would it have killed you to just like choose 7 numbers? And
But did you try calling it?
Yeah, like maybe.
No,
you're
did
like,
you actually
Did
try
you?
calling it?
Did I try calling it?
Yeah.
No. Does it
Well,
do
then
something?
you don't know. I don't know. You
Well, a
try.
lot of the time, those numbers are they link to like publicity firms or something.
Oh.
Which this movie came out like 30 years ago, so it probably won't link you to anything.
You never know.
But when that kind of thing shows up on TV, it usually takes you to the marketing department for the
Paul
show.
McCartney text me.
I think it was literally 5551234 if I remember correctly. So I think it's one of those that isn't anything. But I just wish it was something because it just distracts me, and the scene is otherwise just so perfect. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, this is a good movie. I really think it's hard to write something that is like effective and still possesses so much wide appeal. So I really admire the heck out of this, and I think it's a darn shame that in the 25-year span since this was released, Damon and Affleck have gotten together to write one other thing, and apparently they're in the process of developing a movie about Nike's long shot effort to sign Michael Jordan to its shoe company in the mid 1980s, according to Letterboxd. And if they do that, I'm sure I will watch it because
That's gonna be like a Super Bowl commercial. That's not a movie.
hey man, Last Duel was great and it has almost nothing in common with Good Will Hunting. So
I will point out that they've reunited several times as actors in other movies. If you like some Ben Affleck and Matt Damon, might I recommend Kevin Smith's Dogma or Kevin Smith's Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. If you like movies with no clear direction and a whole lot of gay jokes, they're the movies for you.
Fantastic.
oh goodness. I'm just gonna quote the end of my Last Duel review like super quickly. Someone needs to lock Damon and Affleck in a room and tell them that they're no longer permitted to waste time giving passable action performances. They need to write more. I must insist on that.
Why would Ben care? He's rich.
Matt
for the
Damon
art.
isn't?
Yeah.
Oh
No,
yeah.
I think that was a Justice League reference.
That was a Justice League reference. I don't know if Matt Damon. He probably has.
Oh
something.
no, Joss.
No,
Has-
Something
Matt
about when he's
Damon's-
on Mars or something.
I've blocked Justice League out of my mind.
Well, Matt Damon played the Loki actor in the one Marvel movie,
That's true.
He did.
so he's
That
in...
means that he's rich too.
Darn.
Yeah, he's been in Marvel, therefore.
Yeah. Okay, well, are you guys ready to just do the rundown, I guess?
Yes,
you
yeah.
can Run
Okay.
down. I'm ready.
Oh, crap. Sorry, I was like, I
Yeah.
have to pull up this list.
Take
right?
your time. Yeah. So
Okay.
we quiz Mitchell. Since Amelia is with us, he will be hit with a triad of words. I was trying to think of another T word and I couldn't do it.
Terms.
What order was I? Okay, I think we'll go Zach, then Amelia, then me, then
Okay.
Zach, then Amelia, then me, and so on.
Okay.
Okay. Is everybody ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
I am ready, Coach.
Okay. 3, 2, 1, go.
Irish curses.
3 to 5.
Chalkboards.
4 to 5.
Them apples.
4 to 5.
Oliver Twist.
4 to 5.
Danny Elfman score.
3 to 5.
Elliott Smith soundtrack.
4 to 5.
Professor Lambeau's scarf.
3 to 5.
Slow motion brawling.
2 out of 5.
Original thoughts.
5 out of 5.
Choosing who we let into our weird little world.
4 to 5.
Magic tricks.
3 to 5.
Why Freud did enough cocaine to kill a small horse.
4 to 5.
Farting in your sleep.
5 out of 5.
Gus Van Sant.
4 to 5.
Suing Ben Affleck. I don't need a reason.
3 to 5.
Boston.
4 to 5.
Paint by numbers.
4 to 5.
Robin Williams.
5 out of 5.
Hockey jerseys.
4 to 5.
Calculus.
2 out of 5.
Retainer.
3 out of 5.
Gold chains.
3 out of 5.
The knowledge that it's not your fault.
5 out of 5.
1 second. Driving to California. Oh, right.
4 to 5. Oh, I didn't say. I'm shy.
I didn't finish saying it, actually. So.
Driving
Okay.
somewhere.
Yes.
To do something, I don't know.
Yes.
So we'll hold off for the finale with that one.
Thank you so much for joining us, Amelia. Is there anything
Yes,
you'd
thank
like
you.
to plug or say at this time to
Um,
promote, perhaps?
Thank you for having me. I'm still offended that I was not the first guest because I am such a loyal listener.
This is true.
My dad said the same thing.
Well, thank you. We do appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm glad we could make this happen. I'm sorry I didn't make it happen sooner. That's on me. Anyway, who's previewing the next thing? I don't even know.
I am.
Okay.
So next time, I will be hosting. So we'll be talking about a movie that you probably don't want to watch with your parents. Not for any moral reasons, but just because they'll probably fall asleep.
Sure, Zach. Sure.
Well, maybe for moral reasons, it's pre-Hays Code. Anyway, we're going to be watching 1927's Metropolis, directed by Fritz Lang. It's probably the earliest science fiction epic, and it's been known as an influence on Forbidden Planet, Star Wars, Star Trek, Blade Runner, The Fifth Element. Pretty much any science fiction movie that you've ever seen has taken some kind of influence from Metropolis. It's a massively impactful film, and I'm looking forward to discussing it on the podcast next time. So, if you want to hear us talk about Fritz Lang's Metropolis from 1927, tune in next time.
Okay.
Until
Great.
then.
Nice. I've
Fantastic.
actually heard of that movie.
Yes.
Hype. Let's go. Maybe Amelia will watch it and post a review on her letter, or maybe not. I don't want to put it.
I watch it, post a review. You guys quote me on the podcast.
I will. If you do it, I will quote you.
Maybe we should make a Patreon and make that like a tier. You'll be quoted on Cookie Pocket.
If this episode gets 10 comments on YouTube.
No, money, Christian. It's about the money.
You have to
But
start
there's no
out slow.
substance.
We'll get it.
If you give us a 5-star review,
Yes. On Yelp,
If you look up
a round table.
If you look up A Strong Way to Put It on Letterboxd,
If you watch our Where Eagles Dare, you have the highest. That's the highest tier. Of
Yeah.
Patreon.
If you're
spiraling.
one of the 512 people who have listened to our Where Eagles Dare episode, I don't know where you came from, but thank you for listening to this episode too.
You're welcome.
Well, this has been something. It's been as much of a cookie in a pocket as anything else we've done, I'd say.
We'll see you next time. I'm cutting it off.
Okay.
Okay.
Find
Bye,
out
guys.
if Will is good at hunting.